how we've done, I'll call it an early and a light implementation on Pardot, but successful. And we did it in conjunction with a web redesign and web rebrand project. So a little bit about me, Mike Carroll from Better Interactive, VP of Online Visibility and Business Development, and a bunch of other words I'd like to throw after that too. We're a full-service interactive agency, about an hour north of Philadelphia, kind of in between New York and Philadelphia. We handle everything from brand, online marketing strategy, through content development, design development, online visibility, and primarily focus on B2B industrial technology clients. And we're a Pardot agency partner. This is an industrial manufacturer. Is that anyone? Yeah? He's going, yeah?
No, it's just non-software.
Just because it's different, right? Yeah. So we didn't set out to sell them Pardot. We actually saw a real opportunity to redesign their website, and we saw some real holes in the usability of their website, and they were definitely losing sales because of their website. They make threaded metal inserts. Anyone have a clue? No? Like I could probably flip over a chair, like look under here and find one. It's kind of like, the easiest thing you can describe it as that stuff you get from IKEA that you like slip into a table and you gotta put a screw in it. So if you never knew these existed, you do now and you'll be looking for them later. Here's the key. I have one full-time in-house sales guy, an order taker, at least he was. But he knows the product in and out. They have an outside sales guy, they have some reps in the US and Canada. They didn't really support that well, which is part of the process of implementing Pardot. And oddly enough, for an industrial manufacturer, it's an e-commerce enabled website. Like I said, we did this with a website redesign and rebranding project. But by combining Pardot into that, it kind of helped us with our thought process. We had to think about things a little bit deeper. It wasn't just usability and user flows and graphics. It really, and this is where I cheerlead for Pardot a little bit, because it's okay. It's the end of the week. We can do that. But it really started to make us think about the entire marketing to sales process, and not just how users are engaging with the website, but also how that affects what you're doing with your marketing and with the with sales, how that affects the sales process. It got everyone involved. The sales guy had to sit down, the owner of the company had to sit down, the agency had to come in. So you really start to paint a clear picture of how all these moving pieces work together. And when you're talking about that process, it's a catalyst for change. So when you're talking about how the entire sales and marketing process is affected by implementing something like Pardot, it makes a big change. And I'll show you some strategies and tactics that we've used. But we're starting small, where we're finding things that are working, and we're going to build upon them. And I heard a lot of people this week too that seem like they have a lot going on. They're kind of like I don't really know how to manage all this stuff. I have all these drip campaigns running and all these automation rules, and they're looking for nuggets of information, tactical information on how to fix that or improve it. Find what works, see what's working best, and maybe pause the rest of the stuff. Do what works and build on it. So just to kind of paint the picture of where the client stood before we went down the road of redesigning their website and implementing Pardot. We looked at analytics and we ran heat maps. We use Reinvigorate, good tool. If you don't use it, I would recommend it. It really gives you some insights as to where people are clicking on your website. What we found is that on the homepage, the client basically gave paths to installation methods. So you can glue these things in, you can hammer them in. And what happened is if you picked epoxy in, you went to the product selection guide, which is this page like this with all of their products listed on it. So it didn't actually bring them to the category that they wanted. And what we found is that on that page, the page on the left, the most popular link in the nav was product selection guide, which was the page they were already on. So we were just creating like a loop, and no one would scroll down the page. You can see all the heat at the top. And so the users were basically telling us as well what they wanted. We could see in the heat they were clicking on words for material types: brass, aluminum, stainless steel. But they didn't go anywhere. There's no categories for those. Because they have their one sales guy, right? They think if they free up his time and someone places an order online, it's valid for giving a 2% discount. no one's clicking on it. Save 2%, click here, right? So we saw that as an opportunity, right? We had the client had an offer, and it wasn't getting converted on. Our web design process is we want to look at the assets that are available. I think that content basically drives the Pardot engine. You need to have something to send out to your prospects to get them to engage with the site. Yardley did a pretty good job with that. They had case studies, job stories that were application oriented. We found out that they actually offered product samples that was buried on the website. That was another opportunity to convert visitors. You know, at the time, it was great because our process through the redesign is to take a look at the big picture. So the entire intent of the redesign was to improve conversions. We were able to evaluate the assets, figured out where they fit in the sales and marketing process, and create content that didn't exist. The price, you get a lot for the money, and the flexibility. I'll show you some examples where we're introducing data from other sources. It's not all, it's not kind of the traditional setup, if you will, where the lead gets nurtured and then it gets thrown over to sales. I showed you that globe with the pieces on it where information was coming from everywhere. You have to do some manual work, but Pardot allows you the flexibility to introduce that data into the system and use it to your advantage. From the user experience and design standpoint, Pardot helped us think about opportunities for conversions. And I'll show you some of the tactics that we're using to, one, identify visitors as prospects, and then obviously convert prospects into leads. Through the design process, figuring out where Pardot can handle forms, landing pages, content delivery, kind of simplify that, and how we were able to gain persona insights to improve the sales and marketing process. Before we went down this road and implemented Pardot with the redesign, we knew traffic came to the top of the funnel, and we knew that some people came out of the bottom, and the sales guy had no clue what was happening in between. We typically start with kind of a wireframe process before you push any pixels. I think this is actually a smart way to go for, even if you're looking at creative within Pardot, if you're looking at landing pages, your email templates, plan it out, map it out, put annotations before you get into design. Kind of helps you see what's happening and identifies where there might be. By talking to sales, we found out that the majority of the users that were coming to the site were either familiar with the product, so they wanted to search for it by name, or navigate by name. They knew the application it was going into, or they knew the install type, how to install it. So part of our process was to look at the flow, shorten the steps to conversion, and identify where those conversion points are. And obviously, you're going to want to do that to start to see where you can identify visitors as problems. Kind of initial results for the split navigation. Indication points that people are doing that, and the phone support is down. So now they have a sales guy who's actually selling and not taking orders. See the navigation in the top left, name, application, and install type is being used. So users are, getting to the products in the paths that we set up for them. One of the tactics that we're using. The product sample request we saw as a huge opportunity to convert visitors into prospects. So this is kind of goes without saying, but by emphasizing this, Pardot allowed us to build the forms with custom fields, ID visitors as prospects, assign the prospects to the sales reps. They had the other sales reps out there. So now these guys are happy and they're selling more of Yardley's products because they're getting qualified leads sent to them. And score and begin lead nurturing. And the product sample requests are coming from different sources too. So the sales guy might get a call and he fills that order over the phone. So what we're able to do with Pardot, we're actually exporting that from their quote system, and we're uploading it into Pardot to kind of close the loop on track. Results on that, about a 10% submission rate on the form. There's roughly a 1/3 close rate from Yardley. And going back to September, there's 74 online sample requests since September. So that's been really effective for them. This is something that's kind of unique. Being that they were real low on resources, they only had the one in-house sales guy. He would send out a quote and maybe get around to it. He'd set up an alert in Outlook and it would pop up 2 weeks later and he'd have to remember to follow up with the guy. When we reached out to Pardot and we asked them about sending out a survey to prospects, it's not set up for that. There's not really a survey tool in Pardot. essentially what we wanted to do was send a survey to prospects that had received a quote about 2 weeks later and ask them a few questions. Was the price too high? Was the lead time too long? Are you planning on buying in the future? And what we were able to do is introduce the variable content. So when they get the email, it says, this is in reference to the quote that you received on this date for this item and this many parts. And the links below are custom URL redirects that go to a landing page, and they get mapped to a custom field. So it's one-click response. They don't have to go to a landing page and fill out a survey. So if someone says, your price was too high, that gets recorded in Pardot. It alerts the sales guy to call them and say, well, let's negotiate. Let's work together. This has been real effective. It's kind of automated, really part of the sales process. Results on that, it's about 35 to 50% click-through rate on the survey, and it's not a click-through rate to a landing page. It's people clicking and telling you exactly what they thought about your price, about your quote. So it's really providing valuable, persona insights to the sales team. Right? This is something that we do when we're going through the redesign process. But I think it's important to do it with your campaigns and your user flows within Pardot as well. So I think when you visualize and you map these things out, you can start to see where the opportunities are, where your gaps are, make sure your logic makes sense. So one of the first things we did was identify the opportunities to ID visitors as prospects. Visualize that you can see where the data is going because the client didn't have a CRM, a nice clean CRM where that data was getting thrown into. By visualizing it, we were able to see where that visitor data was being sent to. So if it came in through their e-commerce system, their e-commerce system wasn't automatically talking to Pardot. We had to manually export that and create a process for introducing that data back in. So you can start to identify, where you can trigger automation rules, drip campaigns, where you're sending insights and leads to sales. And then this is an example of a 2% off discount. So I mentioned that if the users bought online, they would receive a 2% discount. Whether they have a discount code or not, they were going to get the discount. We saw an opportunity to force them to register to get that code. So this is just kind of the logic behind that, where now when users come to the site, they can see that, okay, here's an opportunity where I can save 2%. We're getting their information with a Pardot form, and we're starting to track that prospect over time. Currently, there's 17,000 prospects being managed in Pardot. We're seeing direct orders in the e-commerce platform that can be attributed back to the content marketing, the drip campaigns we have in place. The phone support has decreased. It said the guy was an order taker, not an order getter. So he's spending less time through the process on how to place orders on their website. He's spending more time reaching out to prospects and closing deals. There's about a 16% submission rate for the 2% off drip campaign. That was something that didn't exist before. And to date, 94 new prospects have converted as a result of Pardot. Some of the things that we want to build upon, dynamic content integration, I think that's a great opportunity. Landing pages for their pay-per-click campaign. We didn't go and set up landing pages for pay-per-click right away because the site was redesigned. So we wanted to see how the site was performing first before we set up alternative landing pages. Drip campaigns for customer loyalty. When we ask the client how long it typically takes for their clients to reorder, they had no idea. So we're basically taking their order history. We just picked a random date, it's 6 months. We're starting a drip campaign for customers that purchased from them 6 months ago, and they're really starting to gain insights on what's happening with their clients. And this whole implementation of Pardot has really made the client realize an opportunity to modernize everything. I mentioned they had all these archaic systems and the CRM wasn't tied together. They're going to do it. They're starting to see, results, and frankly, it's because Pardot is providing the data to open their eyes. I think one of the things that is a key takeaway that I want to emphasize again is, start small, see what works, and build upon it. You don't have to do this, all-out full integration where everything is automated and talking to each other and all your systems are working, in perfect harmony. Focus on what works and build upon it.